If you visit a circus, you'll see many performers showcasing their mastered acts to the public, but one thing you might notice is that they look a little creepy because of the makeup and other tricks they use to grab attention. In reality, many of them look like normal people. Their hands, heads, arms, and legs aren't truly different or rare. But in history, some real freak show performers stood out with completely strange appearances. What made them truly different were not just their looks, but their strangest body features, which we're going to explain in this video. So, without wasting another second, let's check them out. Number 15. Olga Roderick. Two tiny bumps jutted sharply from her forehead, subtle enough to be mistaken for a quirk of bone, but unmistakable once noticed. Born in the early 1900s in Russia, Olga's features gave her a presence that didn't require exaggerated costumes or lighting. She moved deliberately through the tent, her posture almost sculptural, turning what might have been a small anomaly into the centerpiece of curiosity crowds whispered, but she didn't acknowledge them. Her gaze neutral, calm. Promoters capitalized on the subtle tension she evoked, yet she remained understated, neither monstrous nor overtly theatrical. Her small, rigid movements contrasted with occasional soft gestures, making observers oscillate between fascination and puzzlement. Despite her minimal engagement with theatrics, her appearance drew attention from far beyond local fairs, earning spots in European and American circuits. Performance schedules were tight, but she carried a quiet precision in every moment she entered the stage. Number 14. Millie Christine McCoy. The ribbon around her ankle tangled slightly as the twins stepped into view, a small, humanizing detail amid synchronized motion. Conjoined at the lower spine, Millie and Christine moved with an uncanny fluidity, their bodies independent yet bound by a shared rhythm. Born in 1851 in North Carolina, their singing voice carried above the clatter of a restless tent, not because it was loud, but because it was impossible to ignore. They performed dance routines, harmonized melodies, and even simple gestures that revealed unexpected coordination. Audiences leaned in, unsure where one ended and the other began, while promoters tried to frame the act as both spectacle and novelty. Yet the twins' calm and measured approach to each performance subtly challenged expectation. Fascination without hyperbole. Traveling across the U.S. and abroad, they left impressions that lingered beyond applause, their presence defined by seamless cooperation and physical precision, rather than exaggerated gimmickry or overtly theatrical flair. Number 13. Edouard Beaupré. Heads turned first to his boots, which appeared impossibly large on the canvas floor. Edouard Beaupré, born in 1881 in Canada, reached a height of more than 8 feet, and the scales shifted around him like gravity itself had changed. As a strongman and performer, he lifted objects ordinary people couldn't dream of touching. Yet his technique remained calm and deliberate. Weight demonstrations, posing for crowds, or even walking across a stage revealed both bulk and balance. He carried enormous proportions with surprising stability. In promotional literature, exaggeration was common, but Beaupré's real presence was enough. Despite his imposing frame, he moved with a natural reserve, letting scale do the work rather than overplayed theatrics. Public curiosity often turned to amazement not from drama, but from observation. Every joint, step, and motion underlined the extraordinary without shouting it. Even when performing alongside other giants or strongmen, his figure dominated both stage and perception, leaving audiences in quiet contemplation rather than noisy spectacle. Number 12. Julia Brace. A chair was shifted just slightly before she arrived, a small act of preparation the performers around her knew to anticipate. Julia Brace, born in 1807 in Hartford, had been both deaf and blind from infancy, navigating the world entirely through touch and memory. She didn't rely on exaggeration. Her control of movement created precision that drew attention naturally. Sign systems and tactile cues allowed her to engage with audiences and exhibit subtle gestures that carried meaning without sound. Observers often underestimated her, only to find themselves recalibrating in real time. Public presentations were sparse, but every entrance carried a quiet intensity. No lighting tricks, no props, just presence, exact and assured. Her interactions with space were as deliberate as any choreographed act, every touch and movement measured to communicate clearly in a medium others could not perceive. Number 11. Jack Earl. A child whispered and pointed. Adults turned twice, unsure if they had seen it right. Standing above 8 feet, Jack Earl, born Jacob Reuben Ehrlich in Texas, 1906, changed the scale of every environment he entered. His towering frame made ordinary objects seem diminutive, yet his presence was unhurried, almost casual. Earl participated in circuses, silent films, and staged photographs, carrying height as a visual anchor rather than a source of exaggerated theatrics. He moved deliberately, adjusting posture and stride to fit spaces not designed for someone of his size. Observers often noted the contrast: immense stature paired with subtle expression, gestures, and minimalistic motion. Audiences anticipated spectacle. They received subtle recalibration of expectation. Posters promised marvels, yet the marvel existed in the ordinary act of him walking, standing, or holding a prop. The story doesn't end here. Up next, someone who redefines the very idea of curiosity. Number 10. Alice Elizabeth Daugherty. One side of her body appeared slightly longer than the other, a subtle imbalance that made ordinary movements feel off-kilter. Alice Elizabeth Daugherty, born in 1887 in Iowa, lived with hemihypertrophy, which gave her limbs and torso uneven proportions. She didn't exaggerate these differences. Instead, she walked, lifted, and gestured in ways that highlighted asymmetry naturally. Promoters leaned into the visual contrast, but her real allure was in the precision of movement. Each performance, lifting objects, posing for spectators, or dancing, combined control with a visual twist that challenged perception. Audiences often spent moments recalculating angles, trying to understand how one side could function seamlessly while appearing disproportionate. Across traveling circuits, she moved through towns without fanfare beyond the curiosity she evoked. Her appearances were brief yet memorable, leaving a lingering impression that balanced fascination and subtle disbelief. Nothing theatrical masked the reality of her body. It was both her instrument and her presence, striking quietly but persistently. Number 9. Ella Ewing. Door frames always seemed too low. Ella Ewing, born in 1872 in Missouri, grew to over 8 feet, towering so dramatically that every environment had to be adjusted for her. Even her furniture was custom-made, from chairs to beds, shaping the perception of domestic life as much as her public performances. She moved slowly, deliberately, emphasizing scale without overt gestures. When performing in circus tents, she interacted with props and fellow performers with careful, almost calculated precision. Crowds noticed every small step, every shift in posture. Despite her height, she wasn't theatrical. The spectacle arose from proportion itself. Travel schedules demanded endurance, but her presence required none of the forced exaggeration typical in sideshows. Objects and architecture framed her naturally, making her a moving landmark rather than an act with forced emphasis. Number 8. Madge Bester. Her voice cut sharply through the chatter, far larger than her 3 feet 1 inch frame suggested. Born in 1963 in South Africa, Madge Bester lived with primordial dwarfism, moving quickly and deliberately across any stage she entered. Audiences often misjudged the intensity of her presence. She filled the space without needing additional gestures. Props, costumes, or dramatic lighting were irrelevant. Energy radiated directly from her. Despite the compact frame, she performed chores, demonstrations, and simple interactive acts with remarkable assurance. People leaned in, surprised by how a body so small could command attention naturally. Touring schedules were packed, yet she adjusted effortlessly, navigating stages designed for people twice her height. Her performances relied on observation of form, gesture, and timing rather than spectacle or novelty props. Even in crowded tents, she became the center of focus, not through size or theatrics, but through subtle, kinetic assertion that left audiences reevaluating scale, perception, and expectation simultaneously. Number 7. Arthur James Cayley. He stretched his arms and checked the joints quietly before the audience arrived, a habit that prepared him for performance. Arthur James Cayley, known as the Elastic Man, could bend and twist his body in extreme ways thanks to extraordinary joint flexibility. Born in 1893 in England, he relied on subtle displays of motion rather than loud spectacle. When performing, he contorted into positions that seemed physically impossible yet natural, eliciting attention without narrative or dramatic flair. Promoters highlighted his flexibility, but the real effect came from watching him maneuver with both control and unpredictability. The tense space seemed to shrink or twist around him, depending on the angle of his limbs. Audiences noticed details, folded limbs, elongated reach, and precise balance that contributed to fascination without artificial amplification. Each movement existed as its own entity, a kinetic sculpture observed rather than performed. Next, a performer whose appearance alone tells a story you won't forget anytime soon. Number 6. Helen Smith. A visitor pointed mid-laugh, then paused, unsure what to make of the limbs extending across the stage. Helen Smith, born in 1874, had a skeletal frame with elongated fingers and arms that created a striking silhouette. She didn't exaggerate posture. Each movement was deliberate yet natural. Audience members strained to reconcile thinness with agility, often tilting their heads as if visual perspective might shift the proportions. Stage props, like chairs and tables, emphasized the unusual lines without her needing theatrical embellishments. Promoters noted that she drew attention simply by existing in the space. No lighting or sound cues were necessary. Touring tents, photograph sessions, and casual interactions each highlighted different aspects of her frame, keeping every appearance distinct. The fascination came from geometry and motion, rather than story or context. Visitors rarely forgot her, but not for theatrics. They remembered angles, gestures, and the unsettling elegance of a human form stretched beyond the common scale. Number 5. Kitty Smith. A small slipper lay on the floor, scuffed at the toes, evidence of constant practice. Kitty Smith, born in 1886 in Pennsylvania, had no arms, yet her feet performed every task the hands of ordinary people might accomplish. She ate, wrote, combed her hair, and even signed autographs using precise toe movements. Touring sideshows, she demonstrated feats that audiences assumed required prosthetics or trickery, but all skill came from relentless training and natural dexterity. Crowds often focused first on her feet, then slowly absorbed the coordination in the rest of her posture. Her tent appearances weren't loud or embellished. Props were minimal, spotlight unnecessary. Observers lingered on subtle details, how she handled delicate items, shifted weight, and interacted with space. Every motion was deliberate, a quiet testament to control rather than spectacle. Get ready, our next act transforms the ordinary into something completely unimaginable. Number 4. Jean Carroll. Ink covered every inch of exposed skin, each swirl telling no story that spectators could read. Jean Carroll, born in 1897 in New York, displayed full-body tattoos when few had any body art at all. Her movements carried the images into new angles, giving patterns depth, motion, and unexpected interaction with light. She didn't speak much during exhibitions, letting the designs themselves take focus. Promoters sometimes marketed her as a living mural, but she relied entirely on the visual impact of pigment and human form. Traveling tents and fairgrounds became galleries where curiosity collided with aesthetics. Even small gestures, turning a wrist, extending a limb, altered the shapes, producing a living composition. Audiences lingered, tracing contours without touching, captivated by the interplay of lines, shadows, and muscle beneath the skin. Number 3. Horace Ridler. Eyes darted to the first black stripe, then another before the full pattern registered. Horace Ridler, the Great Omi, was born in 1892 in England and transformed himself with zebra-like tattoos, piercings, and sharpened teeth. His appearance created a visual rhythm across every surface of skin, bones, and joints. Movement shifted the pattern dynamically, as if his body itself were a living optical illusion. Performances relied on subtle gestures, flexing limbs, tilting the head, extending an arm. The tent audience absorbed geometry rather than narrative. The spectacle existed in form alone. Props were incidental, lighting minimal, yet every entry onto the stage or photograph composition made him the focal point. Touring Europe and the United States, Ridler maintained extreme consistency in presentation, but each encounter offered a new perspective depending on angle, distance, and observer attention. Number 2. Lucia Zarate. The tiny coat she wore hung loosely, fabric brushing knees and elbows at angles ordinary spectators weren't accustomed to. Lucia Zarate, born in 1864 in Mexico, was one of the smallest recorded adults, standing barely over 2 feet. Even so, she moved through spaces deliberately, her gestures compact but unmistakably precise. Audiences expecting fragile novelty were confronted with agility, poise, and energy condensed into miniature form. Stage setups required adaptation, chairs, steps, and props needed resizing, but she handled each with careful attention. Promoters highlighted her size as curiosity, yet the real intrigue came from observing movement, balance, and reaction to space. Every small action, turning, gesturing, interacting with other performers, appeared magnified through contrast, creating a performance where scale itself became the spectacle touring life-spanned continents. Yet her presence remained consistent, an uncommon form navigating familiar tasks in ways that invited scrutiny without story or commentary. Number 1. Chang Wu Gao. A ripple passed through the audience as he stepped into view, heads tilting to track height and stance. Chang Wu Gao, born in 1842 in China, measured nearly 8 feet, presenting a scale rarely seen in the late 19th century. He moved with measured precision, gestures subtle yet commanding. Furniture, tents, and fellow performers all redefined themselves around him. No extra showmanship was required. His tours across Europe and America framed him as both a curiosity and a visual landmark, each appearance unique because the environment shifted in response to him. Audience focus gravitated to proportion and posture rather than narrative or theatrics. Small movements, adjusting clothing, shifting weight, extending an arm, produced disproportionate impact, emphasizing scale without hyperbole. Even in static poses for photography, the tension between human size and context created fascination. Performance relied purely on presence, perception, and spatial dominance. Every reaction from observers emerged from a subtle recalibration of expectation, unassisted by commentary, embellishment, or moral framing. A shadow shifted across the stage, drawing eyes in ways they didn't expect, and the room hummed with quiet fascination. Imagine that feeling lingering after you step away. Capture it in your thoughts. Jot it down in a comment and pass it along to someone who would pause at the unusual too. Let the conversation ripple where it will, without force, just the natural pull of intrigue. If this glimpse into the extraordinary made your pulse quicken, subscribing means more moments like this will reach you first. Thank you for exploring, noticing, and sharing energy that keeps these stories alive.